I am so tired of coming on this podcast every single week and telling you to stop playing T.Y. Hilton. Like, just stop it.
Mikey needs help.
Mikey needs help.
I was like, if you don't have Jeff Wilson in here, and if you don't run it on first down, I'm gonna strangle you through that TV.
You should know better than everyone else. That fool tears you up when you place you.
Yeah, but he
Don't you want him on your team?
I have him at number 25.
Thank you. Fine. Todd's the reasonable one on this show.
I take issue with everything he said there.
Well,
I really do.
DeAndre Swift. He's going to break them tackles, son.
That's bold. That's bold. That's putting your nuts on the table right there.
Hey, there's the first time for everything.
Waxing poetic over here with Todd Diamond.
Dude's old.
So what? He's not as old as Brady, and you're jerking him off before the show starts.
I have Sutton in my top 10. I have him at number 9.
Yes.
You know what? I'm just canceling the league. I can't do this with you guys. What's going on, MHA owners? Time to look back on Week 13, and there's a lot to talk about because playoff spots are on the line. So glad you're joining us here on the MHA podcast. Eric Lansing, Todd Diamond, and Mike Urano. What's up, gentlemen? Tuesday night. We only have one more week left to go in the regular season. How are we feeling? Todd?
Peachy, just
Famous
great.
last
Famous last words. Just great. The sports world just loves me right now. All my teams love me. The Yankees, the Tar Heels, the Broncos. It's great. It's great. I'm just fantastic. Even my own team loves me. It's just great. It's great. It's great. It's just great.
We're waiting on pins and needles for the Aaron Judge news. So maybe that'll be some breaking news during the podcast. That would be good podcasting. I'll tell you that if it pops up with whatever happens. Giants are trying to bring in the AL MVP into the mix. Mikey, how you feeling? I mean, same as last week for the U too. You didn't have to worry about clinching or winning or losing. I mean, obviously you wanted to win, but nothing on the line. You got the number 1 seed in the first round bye, but you doing all right today?
I got to say, I'm pretty comfortable. Pretty comfortable.
You are. Me and myself and Todd, I don't know how much Todd was stressing, but I was stressing like a mofo on that Monday night game trying to clinch that spot. And Tom Brady was doing Tom Brady things for the first 3.5 quarters and then goes 2 long drives and gets 2 touchdowns and none to Godwin and was able to pull out the victory. So we'll talk more about that. But cool. Yeah, good to have you guys here on the MHA podcast. Let's go through some news real quick.
Well, this reporter was possibly a little hasty earlier. Would like to reaffirm his allegiance to this country and its human president. May not be perfect, but it's still the best government we have. For now.
If I missed anything, let me know. Man, the 49ers, I don't know what's going on. I feel like every year they're dealing with tons and tons of injuries. This time, Jimmy Garoppolo, he breaks his ankle. He's out for the season. Mr. Irrelevant, now running the offense in the Bay Area. I don't know how much that's going to hurt or help the 49ers going forward. But obviously, we all know who the 49er guy is in the league. And that is Belt Sanders, who's got plenty of 49ers on there. But we'll see how that all plays out. Lamar Jackson, Mikey's favorite QB, hurt his knee in the Bronco game, left early. Kind of considered week to week. I haven't heard anything at the latest. So we'll see. It may not matter as Kevin going the Jared Goff route, and that paid off, at least for the most part. Kenny Walker, my running back, jammed his ankle. Left the game early. Almost cost me a win. Luckily, it did not. We're waiting to see what the latest. I heard something from Coach Carroll that it's a low ankle sprain, so we'll kind of wait and see. I may not have him this week, but that's okay. I've made the playoffs. I would like to get that number 2 seed, but I'd rather have him full strength for the playoffs as well. Jacoby Myers, one of Todd's guys, entered the concussion protocol. He got hit in the Buffalo game. We'll see how that goes. Broncos wide receiver Cortland Sutton now dealing with a hamstring injury, so his non-existent fantasy value drops even further. Man, what a bad season for the Broncos. Titans rookie wide receiver Treylon Burks somehow caught a touchdown and suffered a concussion at the same time. So he now enters the concussion protocol and see what happens, what's in store for him next week. especially if someone ends up picking up Tannehill for next week. They may not have Treylon Burks. Anybody I miss out there, guys? I think that was the biggest news, at least fantasy-wise.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Awesome.
Yep, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Very good. Well, good to hear that. I didn't have a lot of time to look up MHA trivia, but I did find a stat that I can kind of trivia you guys on.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Could end up in a tie as well, because Davante Adams, he scored his 84th and 85th receiving touchdowns. That's the 5th most in a player's first 9 seasons in NFL history. There are 4 players ahead of him. I guess we can do MHA trivia with that. We'll just go back and forth, and we'll see who gets the most out of these 4. So, Todd, I'll let you go first. Name one of those wide receivers that had more than 85 receiving touchdowns in his first 9 seasons in the NFL.
I will go with Calvin Johnson.
Damn it, sorry. There we go, Pim. Calvin Johnson. That is incorrect. Sorry, Todd. Over to Mikey. Mikey, can you name one of those wide receivers?
I'll say Randy Moss.
Randy Moss. That is correct. He had 101 touchdowns in his first 9 seasons. Back to you, Todd. Mikey with a 1-0 advantage.
I'll go with T.O.
Terrell Owens. That is also a correct answer. I did not type down his number. It's under 98, so maybe it's like 95. I'll have to go back and look at that. But he is one of the answers. Good job, Todd. So you're tied 1-1. Back to Mikey. We're talking about Davante Adams, who has now 85 receiving touchdowns in his first 9 seasons. 4 guys have more in their first 9 seasons. Mikey, give me a guess.
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice is the number 1 answer. 118 touchdowns. Well done. Back to Todd. There is one more answer out there.
I'll go with one of your favorite wide receivers, Eric, that you like. Mr. Hands is what his name was. Chris Carter.
No, I'm sorry. Chris Carter is not one of those guys. It's not a bad guess, though, because that's all he does is score touchdowns. Mikey, do you have a guess for me?
Marvin Harrison.
And that is the final answer. Well done. Mikey wins 3-1. Marvin Harrison had 98. So Davante Adams, we'll talk about him in this show for sure. He is incredible. Let's get to that Week 13 recap, and we'll start with the elimination game between the Cooper's Cousins and Notorious CUP, both at 5-7. The winner keeps their playoff hopes alive. The loser starts thinking about next year. Quain squad looking like the team they kind of drafted before the season started. Injuries have really depleted this team, and they came to play this past week. 25 points from A.J. Brown, 11 from Jamar Chase that finally returned from a multi-week injury, 18 from DeAndre Swift, and how about A.J. Dillon returning to form? Put up 15 or more points in the last 2 weeks. Cooper's Cousins got a nice day from Terry McLaurin, who showed up in the duds category only a week ago. I feel like every time we badmouth him, he does well. He had 19. Saquon Barkley, another great week, this time 17. But tough days for Zay Jones with only 2. Tyler Higbee with just 2. And just 35 from Tua. Notorious CUP with the clutch win. And they have a chance at a playoff spot with 1 week left to go in the regular season. Cooper's Cousins' playoff hopes are all but gone, and they look to play spoiler in Week 14. How about 6-5-1 Eatin W's versus the 7-4-1 Belt Sanders? Kevin squad hoping to put themselves into a prime position to nab a playoff spot with a win. But it took on always tough Belt Sanders squad. Eatin W's made the great decision to pick up Jared Goff off the waiver wire, put him right into the lineup over Lamar Jackson, and it paid off big time. Jackson left the game early with an injury against the Broncos. Not that it looked like he was going to do much anyway, because the Broncos defense stifling him a little bit. But Goff came in, scored 56 points. That was 14 more points than Josh Allen on the other side of this game from the Belt Sanders. But Allen's team got good performances from Zeke, who's having a pretty good second half of the season. He puts up 16 points in the combo of Robbie Gould and the San Fran defense. They combined to outscore Kevin's kicker in defense 39-14. The magical season continues for the Belt Sanders, who clinches a playoff spot after earning the victory 121-118. Eatin W's not out of it yet. 7-5 Gonzo Cats, 5-7 the NWA. A loss by the NWA would end their hopes of getting back to the playoffs this year. And they took on a Gonzo Cat squad who could clinch with a win. G's team put up 133 points. Justin Herbert, solid, 47 points. Tyreek Hill, again, masterful, 22 points. And Josh Jacobs, number 1 running back in the league, was again great, 20 points. But Jalen Hurts shining that much brighter here in 2022, 69 points. And this time, Devonta Smith getting into the Eagle action, 16 from the former Heisman winner, Tony Pollard, yet again. A big part of the Cowboys' 50 burger, 23 more points for the Dallas backup running back, 168 points for the Gonzo Cats. Talk about stepping up. They are in the MHA playoffs, but we'll have to say goodbye to the 2020 MHA champions who won't be a part of the final 6. 7-5 Lion Rip, 5-2 Kilgore Trout. Trout needing a win to put themselves in a position to try to pick up a win the next week. But they took on a always tough 7-5 Lion Rip squad. Pretty good day for Joe's team. 28 from Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's massive. 16 from CeeDee Lamb. 24 from Christian McCaffrey. And how about 11 from Christian Kirk, who's had a really good year. Trout tallied 147 points. Would have beaten more than half the teams in the league. But it wasn't enough. Of course, the league's second highest scoring team put up a stunning 182 points, 58 from Joe Burrow, 28 from Devontae Adams, 17 from Stephon Diggs, and 22 from Dallas's defense. Just an unlucky week for Kilgore Trout, but he's not out of it yet. 7-5 Lemonheads versus 3-9 Butterfingers. Lemonheads trying to clinch that playoff spot. This one came down to the fourth quarter of the Buccaneers-Saints game. Back to the beginning, Jamal Williams scored yet another touchdown to kind of get the week going for the Lemonheads. Samaje Perine was yet again incredible with Joe Mixon on the shelf, 18 points. And the combo of Justin Jefferson and Keenan Allen, 32 total points. 7 of Todd's players had 8 or more points, including 16 from Garrett Wilson. But this one was going to be decided by the Tom Brady versus Andy Dalton duel on Monday night. Easy for me to say. Dalton gave the Butterfingers a 6-point lead late heading into that fourth quarter. But Brady orchestrated 2 TD drives at the very end of this game to bring the Bucks back and also bring the Lemonheads back. He scored 57 points. Garbage time, folks. Dalton finished with 35, and this one goes to the Lemonheads 139-120. Lemonheads are in. And finally, one that didn't matter too much other than maybe perhaps those fighting for the number 1 pick next year. 10-2 Hot Tamales, 3-9 Chad Powers fan club. The mighty Hot Tamales looked human this past week, but it was still more than enough to defeat Miles' squad 136-98. McKelsey scored a combined 40 points, 36 for Mahomes, 4 for Kelsey. But the defense whisperer strikes again, 35 points from the Browns defense, who scored 3 TDs. Not much to say about Chad Powers fan club, who got 42 from Dak, but not much else. Bad days from Chris Olave, Amari Cooper, and Juju Smith-Schuster. So just a quick update on the standings here. The 1 seed, of course, belongs to the Hot Tamales, are 11-2, and they are and they have that first round bye. Currently in the second spot, and there's a lot to be decided here, so hang on. Currently in the second spot, Belt Sanders 8-4-1. They control their own destiny. They win, they earn that second round bye, and they'll have the number 2 seed. In the 3 spot is Lion Rip, who also clinched. They are 8-5 with a massive point total of 1,911 points. They can earn the number 2 seed and a bye with a win and a Belt Sanders loss. 4th place, Lemonheads 8-5. They also have a chance at the second spot. They would need to win and have losses by both the Belt Sanders and Lion Rip. Gonzo Cats, they're 8-5. They're in the MHA playoffs. They need the Lemonheads, Lion Rip, and Belt Sanders all to lose while also picking up a win. So there's 4 teams that can pick up that second spot. That's pretty exciting. So those 5 teams have clinched. Tamales, Belt Sanders, Lion Rip, Lemonheads, and Gonzo Cats. So who's left to pick up that final that final 6th spot? Eatin W's, Kilgore Trout, Notorious CUP. Currently in the 6th spot, Eatin W's 6-1. Easy for them. If they win, they are in, although their opponent's not easy. They got to take on the Gonzo Cats, who put up a bunch of points this past week. If Eatin W's lose to the Gonzo Cats, and if Kilgore Trout defeats CUP or ties CUP, then Kilgore Trout is in. If Eatin W's lose, and if Eatin W's lose and Notorious CUP wins or tie, they'll be in. Did I get all that right, Miguel?
Sounds like it.
Woo! That was a lot, but that's exciting. There's a lot still left to be decided in the final week of the MHA regular season. So there you go, gentlemen. Mikey's number 1. Currently, I'm at the 4th spot. Todd on the outside looking in. That's how it all goes. I don't know if you want to say anything about your matchup at all, Miguel, from this past week. I mean, not much at stake, but 136 points. Not your best week, but enough to come out with your 11th victory on the season.
Yeah, it was kind of nice because it was probably like Mahomes' worst week, and then Waddle's worst week, Kelsey's worst week, and managed
still
to still
unbelievable.
Still won.
Just
And I didn't even have to worry about it, so it was very nice.
Must be nice. I'm so happy for you.
Sound like it.
Just great.
Yeah.
Just fantastic, Mikey. Just so happy for you. Just
So Mikey goes in as the number 1 seed. In terms of the dough of the week, a lot of big point totals, some blowouts. I think this one's going to be easy call, right, Miguel?
Yeah, I think it goes to Kevin.
Yeah,
Again.
2nd week in a row.
Yeah. I had Kate Otten over Hayden Hurst. That was probably the biggest one. I mean, there were others, but
Yeah, I had Deontay Johnson over Michael Pittman, but whatever. Poor Kevin. He was excited he got it last week, or at least maybe just through text context. Maybe he wasn't excited about it, but 2 weeks in a row, K-Dog. Unfortunately, you still have a chance this week. You win and you're in. Let's talk about some of the stars from this past week. I'll start with Todd Diamond, who stood out in week 13.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts. It just seems like every single week he just keeps, he's making a very good case to be one of the top fantasy quarterbacks next year. Right there with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Obviously he's got the Eagles rolling, so that helps too a lot. But he's just every week is, whether it's, running touchdown or throwing, he just seems like it's easy for him. So Jalen Hurts, definitely somebody, you really have to maybe even consider next year, maybe taking over maybe Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen when it comes to that. So Jalen Hurts for me.
Is that a crazy statement from Todd, Miguel, that Hurts should be possibly drafted over Mahomes next year or Josh Allen? Right now, he sits in the 5th spot in terms of points scored behind Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Herbert. Where do you think he might be drafted next year? You think he'll go amongst the top 5 or even before that?
possibly. But yes, that is 100% a crazy statement.
Yeah, of course
So
it is.
that's almost as bad as Najee Harris, you know. Sorry, Todd. Too soon?
Yeah,
Never too
no, it's not. It's not because the Najee Harris thing, I gotta live with that for the entire offseason until next year.
Until he picks
no,
something out.
Jalen Hurts is terrific, but like it's the difference between sometimes you have like better how do I put this, NFL quarterbacks versus fantasy sometimes in our league because of the point per completion.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jalen Hurts could have like a great game on the ground but only have like a 20 completion day, and that sits him, 50s, where somebody like Mahomes could, get 30 completions and then he's sitting mid 60s. So the consistency is more with those completion guys.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he had a season high 29 completions and didn't rush that much. So if that was more consistent of what we usually see from Hurts, I would agree he should be drafted amongst the top 3 or 4. But before that, 16 completions, 18, 17, and his rushing obviously makes up for that a little bit, and his rushing touchdowns also kind of help make up for that. But if it's so beneficial to have a guy, because touchdowns are fluky and they may not show up for you on a week. Now for Hurts, it's been pretty solid. That's why he's in the top 5 in scoring. But if he's putting up 16 completions and 18 completions, and then the touchdowns aren't coming for him, he's going to be like 11th or 12th in terms of scoring. But for this past week, Todd, you're absolutely right. Saw a stat. He is the first Eagles player in their history to pass for at least 350 yards, have 3 passing touchdowns, and have a rushing score in the same game. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. Came up big for Gonzo Cats when he needed to win. Mikey, give me a star from week 13.
Okay, before I do that,
Sure.
I want to give credit where credit's due.
Not the Denver Nuggets. They just lost to the Mavericks. Sorry, but go ahead.
No, so my first star is not going to be an actual player. It's going to be one of our owners. And that's Mr. David Pollen, the Gonzo Cats.
Love it.
I looked this up, and I double checked it just to make sure that I was true. But he clinched a playoff spot this week. Did you know that it was his 8th consecutive year clinching a playoff spot?
Get out. You went back and looked that up, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. 8 years in a row. Now, is that by far the longest in our league?
I don't know if historically if that
well,
is,
just the past 8 years.
Oh, past 8 years, yeah. I think
everybody's missed at least once.
Yeah, I think Aaron is second right now. Aaron's been, I think, 5 years straight.
Pollen, great job, my man.
But yeah, and it's he hasn't won it, but I mean he's still been consistent enough to make it 8 consecutive years. That's fantastic.
Woo, Mikey going deep. Love that. Way to go, Miguel. That's fantastic. So yeah, one of the stars, Gonzo Cats, owner David Pollen. One of the guys, I know we talk about him every week, but you can't ignore Davante Adams. And I mentioned the stat of his 84th and 85th receiving touchdowns. It's the 4th game this season with 100+ yards receiving and 2 scores. That's the most in a single season in Raiders history. And they go back a little bit, folks. And so what Davante Adams has been able to do, when we were watching those games, and it just made me think of Travis Kelce. Obviously, when I was playing against Kelce, when he had those 4 touchdowns, and it's like, why aren't they covering him? It's because they can't, and they can't cover Davante Adams. Those touchdowns, there's nobody near him, and it's not like the Raiders are not good, but he is so good that he's giving them any kind of a morsel of an opportunity to win. But if they give Carr any kind of time, Davante Adams is open downfield, and it's wide open. And it's we obviously saw it in person. Both those touchdowns he caught yesterday were just incredibly wide open. And I think he's number 2 in terms of wide receiver scoring in our league. He's behind Stephon Diggs. And some folks were talking about him being the number 1 wide receiver going into the season. So,
yeah.
What do you know?
At least I got that right. Right.
You're not there yet. But, if you're putting up 28 points weekly, it's going to happen. Todd, do you have another star from this past weekend?
I'm going to go with, again, Tony Pollard. Jesus. 23 points. I think the Cowboys, Tony Pollard's making a very good case of being the number 1 back. Granted, they still give it to Zeke, and Zeke still gets his, but Tony Pollard just out of nowhere just is making a very good case for, if he wants to go be a number 1 back somewhere else, he's making a very good case for it. So I go with Tony Pollard.
Hard to argue that. I was just looking at where he sits amongst running backs scoring. He's 8th. With 174 points. He's got 852 yards rushing, 8 rushing touchdowns, 25 catches for 259 yards and 2 TDs. And him and Zeke have been able to feast at the same time. So some people may wonder, oh no, is Zeke back and healthy and playing a lot? And they're both playing a lot, and they scored 50 points, and both were huge parts of that. So for Pollard, who was drafted nowhere near as the 8th best running back, coming in. He's been a breath of fresh air. You talk about Gonzo Cats once again. Mikey, who else stood out to you?
So I'm going to go with the kicker defense combo of the 49ers with Robbie Gould and the Niners defense.
Is it Gold or Gould? Am I been saying it wrong?
I've always called him Gold, but
okay.
But he got 18 from his kicker, 3 field goals over 40, and then 21 from his defense, 3 sacks, 3 picks, a defensive touchdown. Allen has mysteriously been finding ways to win.
Preach it, son.
Every single week. And I'm going to give you guys a stat that might discuss the other owners in this league. But so this last week, Jeff Wilson Jr. had 0 points.
0.
This was the 6th time that Allen has had a goose egg in his lineup.
Oh my goodness!
This season,
6-0.
He's not. He is 4. He's 4-1-1.
Goodness gracious!
Jesus,
in those 6 weeks with the goose egg in his
0.
lineup. Yeah.
Come on.
Unbelievable.
So, but it's because of things like, his 49ers, and this week the kicker and the defense coming through big to help him secure a playoff berth and the 3-point win over Kevin. So, yep, that's who I'm giving it to.
I'm not mad at you. They're not the most exciting positions. Some of the time those guys get drafted way too early. But San Francisco against Miami, and you figure that's a matchup where the Dolphins, they put up a bunch of points, but they held Tua in check. And while Tyreek Hill got his, I know Waddle was kind of banged up a little bit. San Francisco, man, 21 points and good old kicker from San Fran. The last one I'll mention, and it's a guy I know I've mentioned a couple of times, but A.J. Brown, revenge game against the Titans, 25 points, keeping CUP's playoff hopes alive, 8 receptions, 119 yards, and 2 TDs. Now, that was more receptions, yards, and receiving touchdowns than all of the Titans wide receivers combined. So by himself, A.J. Brown outscored the entire wide receiver core of the Titans. Not that they're super great, but their total was 8 receptions, same as A.J. Brown, but 41 yards and 1 touchdown. So A.J. Brown, who, I was a little bullish on when the season came in, but he's done great. And CUP needed him. It's interesting to see CUP with DeAndre Swift kind of back now, and A.J. Dillon, who he was high on beginning of the season, and he's kind of come around. So should be interesting, that matchup with Kilgore Trout. All right, let's go to the duds.
What, do you smell something?
Do I smell something? What am I, hard of smelling? Of course I smell something.
Who's stanking up? Who's costing people possible playoff spots? We'll start with Mikey this time.
All right, so in a game in which NWA really needed, it didn't come down to Monday night, but I think I have to speak on the fact that Alvin Kamara has been
preach it, son.
He's been kind of a dud. I mean, last night 26 rushing yards, only 2 receptions. I mean, I don't know what's been going on, if it's just that Andy Dalton sucks, and I just don't know. But he's not the Alvin Kamara that we're used to, and it's hurt NWA this year.
Mark Ingram was better than Alvin Kamara. Old man Ingram was better than Alvin Kamara in that one. Kamara's 21st in our running back in scoring, and he's now just getting to his bye week. And so he's going to drop even further than 21st. I agree. I don't watch enough Saint games, and there's a reason why. But just watching this one, it was just, and Tampa's run defense is pretty good, but why would you not utilize Kamara out of the backfield way more often, unless something's wrong? Or if he's not, all of a sudden he's not effective. I don't know. I don't want to believe that. Like I said, I haven't seen enough of him, but it just didn't seem the way they never really got a pass rush. I mean, I was complaining more than anything to you guys that Andy Dalton jersey was pretty clean. They weren't getting to him. They weren't forcing. And so they could have easily got him out of the backfield to make something happen, but it just never really happened. It was quite interesting. Todd, who stank it up in week 13?
Well, I mean, again, my team at this point, it's adorable anyway. The season's over anyway, but I'm just going to throw in TJ Hawkinson. Only 5 points. I get it. TJ Hawkinson hasn't been, hasn't been Travis Kelce. Nobody's been Travis Kelce, but only put up 5 points, and they're playing the Jets. I mean, granted, the Jets are a lot better this year, but, I really thought, when he got traded to Minnesota that, yes, I mean, he still has Justin Jefferson, still has that. I get it, more mouths to feed, but I just thought at least he'd maybe he'd do a little bit better. He'd maybe some more touchdowns, more catches, but I mean, the one game, and I think this was when he was still with Detroit, but in week 4 when he had 30 points, that was amazing. I was like, oh, this is great. Here's I found my tight end, but he had 1, 7, and 12, and 13 on Thanksgiving, but not exactly what I was really, hoping for, when I drafted him. But
Well, I mean, the state of tight ends is not good. Anybody want to guess who the top tight end this past week was? That should have been MHA trivia now that you look back on it, but probably for the first time all year wasn't Kelce.
Yeah, it wasn't Kelce. I have no idea.
Todd, you want to venture a quick guess?
I'll say
Who were you gonna say?
I was gonna maybe say
you were gonna say a name and you stopped. At least I think so.
From the Bears.
No.
Clement.
He wasn't bad. He had 9 points. I thought you were gonna say Cade Otton, who had that touchdown from Tom Brady. He had 13 points. Noah Fant 12, Evan Ingram 12, Taysom Hill 11. He caught a touchdown pass and threw a couple passes. Greg Dulcich, Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet. I mean, Mark Andrews was way down there with 6, Kelce with 4, TJ Hawkinson with 5, Freiermuth 6. Just not a lot of great performances. The top 3 guys weren't played for sure. Otten was on Eatin W's bench. Fant, Ingram not on anybody's squad. And Lion Rip had Taysom Hill. So tight ends, well, crazy for sure. One of the duds that stood out to me, how about Derrick Henry, guys? Goodness. 5 points. Averaged 2.2 yards per carry, 30 total rush yards, 2 receptions. He's had single digits in 3 of his last 4 games. And that just has got to be better than that. And for Kevin, who needed a win in a big-time way, didn't get that from him. Didn't really get it from Chubb either. At least Chubb was in 8 points and got 80 yards rushing. But, man, Nick Chubb has been letting him down. He's been, Derrick Henry, back to Derrick Henry, has been spectacular, coming up into week 10, but then 7, 26. He had a great game against Green Bay, and then 9, and then 5. And just 1 touchdown in the last 4 weeks. I don't know if there's just something going on or the end of the season. He's good enough he can pick it up. But Kevin needs that man to step the F up. So get it. Mikey, who else stunk? Anybody else stand out?
Yeah, I mean, and I hate doing this because the rest of Kilgore's team was pretty, darn good. Yeah. And he was going against a juggernaut of a day against Aaron. But this is the second time in 3 weeks that Kirk Cousins has screwed the pooch for Kilgore Trout. Man, it's hard. Just not good. I mean, and what's weird is the Vikings scored 27 points, but he just wasn't a big part of it. He had a late touchdown to Justin Jefferson, which kind of helped his point total, but 33 is not going to get it done.
Just imagine if he didn't. And that was like a pretty amazing throw and catch at the end of the game. So if he didn't have that, oh my goodness. We just saw 14 points 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Now, Jets have a decent secondary, but when you're what are they, 8-1, 9-1, whatever they are these days, like that's a scary notion heading into the real NFL playoffs. Now there's 5 weeks left to go in the NFL season, and they got some better matchups coming up here, but you're going to see some good teams in the playoffs, and you got to be able to step up better than that. Anybody else stand out that was bad, Todd, for you?
I'll go with one of your guys. No, not one of your guys. It was more. Sorry, I'll go with Michael Pittman Jr. Only 2 points. Now, granted, the Colts are bad, really bad, but he was supposed to be. I was really high on him coming into the season, but he hasn't really. He's had a lot of duds this year. So I'll go with him.
Here, I didn't get to see this game, so you guys can tell me if you guys watched. But I mean, when you give up 54 points, you're passing to try to get back in it. Now, they just not have any opportunity? Was the Dallas defense that good that Matt Ryan and company couldn't manage a couple of drives to try to help that point total for Pittman?
I mean, Parsons was all over the place, so that just tells you right there how good how it was. But yeah, they just couldn't get anything going. I think the writing's on the wall.
I mean, the Matt Ryan was good for 3 quarters. And then the fourth quarter happened, and he turned into Matt Ryan again.
So they were doing well for 3 quarters, and Pittman still wasn't involved, huh?
Yeah, like he was going to Alec
Campbell show.
Campbell had some catches, but Alec Pierce was involved more. Then I think Matt Ryan threw 3 interceptions or something in the fourth quarter.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
Trying to find someone else. There were so many big point totals. It's hard to find and shit on people. I mean, I could get on Cooper's Cousins for not trying to find someone better than Tyler Higbee the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
0 last week, and then, just 2 points this week. And that Rams offense is putrid. But again, we just talked about the sad state of affairs of tight ends. So,
well, what's rough for him too is he was 5-3, and now five losses in a row eliminated him from the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Tua didn't do him any favors. 35 points. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, but also 2 picks. And I don't know if he got hurt in this game. I know they were talking about he was hurt afterwards. I don't know if he got hurt and was taken out. I don't remember the end of that game, but yeah, that's tough for Cooper's Cousins because there's a solid team there, but just didn't come together for him at the time. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get into the week 14, like what's coming up, the next week opponents? Anything stand out to you? We know the Broncos stink. I think, do they have the same record as Todd? Is that right? They both 3-9.
Yeah.
Is that a coincidence? I don't know.
Yeah. It's
You're 3-10.
know.
You're worse than the Broncos. Never mind. You don't have a bye week.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay because, it's going to go into next season. I'm going to put the blinders on when it comes to expectation for the Broncos. And, if I draft the Bronco, it's going to be McManus because he's the only one scoring points. So that's all it comes down to.
I mean, look at how close is this race for the number 1 pick?
I just noticed that too, Miguel. Go ahead. I just noticed that.
The point total is tied.
It's tied. That's crazy.
And we both and both me and Miles are terrible. So it's great. It's just great. But like I said, obviously I want to finish out, next week I want to finish out strong because I feel like regardless, yes, because what I'd love to, push the restart, like, about in week 4, week 5. Yeah, absolutely. Go back and redraft again. Absolutely. But that's not how the world works. So, I want to finish the season out strong, finish out the last game strong. And regardless if I get the number 1 pick or not, it's just, I understand. Because you guys have had the number 1 pick too before, right?
I don't recall, honestly. I feel like I've had a really bad season before, but I don't know if it was number 1. I'd have to go back and look that up. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
but regardless.
I don't know that I have either.
Yeah, see,
like,
you guys,
I've been bad, but man, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and do some research. Maybe that'll be MHA trivia next week. I don't know.
Okay, but at the end of the day, I feel like at least if I don't get if I don't get the number 1, if I get the number 2 overall pick, it's like, all right, my season sucked, but I wasn't like the worst team in the, wasn't as bad. And again, at the number 2 pick, great. Yeah, number 1, you're getting the pick of the litter. I get that, but number 2, you're still getting really good choices anyway. So,
but there is there nobody that you crave more than anyone else?
Not really, because I feel like regardless of who I pick with my first overall pick is, I'm more worried, not worried about, but I'm more focused on making sure the rest of my team is good. I made picks, that I made really good picks rounds, I guess you say rounds, four. I'll just say for grins, 4 through like 10, because usually I know like 11, 12, we're getting, just getting down to just picking players, just backups or maybe some rookies. But I just feel like I need to be more focused on making sure I pick the right picks after making picks after my first pick, if that makes sense. Making those picks come out correct compared to my first overall pick. Yeah, I want my first overall pick to be great, of course, because that's but I feel like I need the rest of my picks to hit more than my first overall pick.
All right, I hear you. I was going through the league real quick to see like if I ever drafted first, and I just started from the beginning. And both Mike and I both have drafted first. So in year 3 in 2004, I drafted first and picked Peyton Manning, and won the whole thing. In the next year, 2005, Mikey picked first. Ended up picking up Peyton Manning, won the whole thing. So can you pick up Peyton Manning with your first overall pick next year?
Hey, if that's the case, well, yeah, if that's the case, yes, sign me up for that. And I when I picked Peyton Manning, because obviously I traded for the number 1 pick, and I picked Peyton Manning and I won the league. So yeah, if I get the number 1 pick, great. Then I can get that player, not named Najee Harris, and help me win.
Now, there's a caveat to that, because me and you both had that, but
yeah, I'm looking that up now. But I finished second the year before.
Right.
I picked first.
So that was before we used to do
random.
Yeah,
this was online,
have a random
right?
order.
Yeah, because I was like, that doesn't make sense. I finished second in 2003. How did I get the first pick?
Yeah, I don't think we started doing the last place gets it until like 2008, maybe.
Okay. Well, still, we did pick first. That was the whole point of the conversation, but it wasn't based on because we sucked. It just, that was the way the league went. And Peyton Manning was awesome in those days. Okay. I'm going to go through this week 14 game of the week. So while both of these teams need Eatin W's to lose for it to matter, their game incredibly important. Kilgore Trout, Notorious CUP, trying to earn that final playoff spot. If Eatin W's lose and one of those two win or tie, they will move into the playoffs. Eatin W's easy peasy lemon squeezy. If they beat the Gonzo Cats, who are playoff bound and 8-5, and they just scored 168 points, Eatin W's is in. So on paper, it's easy, but in terms of the actual matchup, not so easy. The rest is all about that second place, or that second bye. All the Belt Sanders need to do is to beat the Butterfingers, and they are the number 2 seed and do not have to play in the first week of the playoffs. Super important. Line Rip faces off against Chad Powers Fan Club. They need a win plus a Belt Sanders loss, and that'll give them second place. Lemonheads need to beat NWA and have the Belt Sanders, Lion Rip, and those two to win or to lose, and I will jump into the number 2 spot. Gonzo Cats, they're playing Eatin W's. They can also get number 2, so if they beat them and have the Belt Sanders, Lion Rip, and Lemonheads all lose, they can jump into number 2. And the Snorefest, I guess, of the weekend, Hot Tamales will take on Cooper's Cousins. So Mikey's just been chilling, not worrying about too much. So he's got his first place and number 1 bye all secured. So bye week next week, gentlemen. We were talking about it earlier. Falcons, Bears, Packers, Colts, Saints, and Commanders. So no Cordero Patterson, no Justin Fields, no David Montgomery, no Jonathan Taylor, no Michael Pittman, no Alvin Kamara, no Terry McLaurin, no Brian Robinson. So there you have it. Week 13's in the books. Still plenty to play for in week 14. So let's go. Let's get to it. And then in next week's show, we'll be talking about the playoffs, getting ready for the big time. And, just last thing I'll say before we get out of here, man, some good teams out there. We saw some big point totals pop up this week. I don't know if that was just the state of the offense in the NFL this week, or I think there's actually really good teams. And so those playoff teams are going to be slugging it out. I'm kind of excited about it. You guys, well, Mikey, you excited about it?
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to next week because I like the scenario where Gonzo Cats gets the number 2 seed, because then it would force you and Aaron to play each other in the first round. And I think
that I don't want. I do not want that. Give me Allen some form or fashion. Not Aaron, not even Gonzo Cats. Gosh, they've been good too. But my team's good when everybody's healthy, and we'll see what the status of Tom Brady and Justin Fields is when the playoffs get in, and if Kenneth Walker's back, and what's going on with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. Do I play them both if Walker's out? Who knows? Not worried about that right now. Any last words from you, Todd, as we get out of here?
Thanks just looking forward to 2023. That's all I have to say about that.
And Aaron Judge being a Yankee for the next 10 to 12 years.
Yes, that's and hopefully the Tar Heels can figure it out and get back on track. And yeah,
that one is less likely. That game on Sunday was bad. But we'll talk about that after the fact. That'll do it for this week's edition of the MHA podcast. Eric Lansing, Mikey Renaud, Todd Diamond. Good luck to all the owners who are playing for something in Week 14, and we'll see you next week.